problem those people are going to have is predicting this meta.
I think so as well. There's a lot more aggression this time around in the tournament, and that seems to be the case with every meta that evolves. You know, the aggro decks have the weird initiative of deciding what tools they need to bring to get the job done. It's typically the opposite. What should the control decks bring? But right now, the control decks are just so powerful that the aggressive decks have the onus of that. And
it was just really weird.
Yeah. I want to remind everyone
strange.
We're not talking just for the sake of it. We are experiencing some slight technical issue here, so apologize for that, and we'll get the next match underway as quickly as possible. But man, what about this Warlock deck?
Yeah,
holy moly.
I wasn't, I mean, I've seen the meta, I know what the meta is, but the amount of it is the incredible thing. We are going to have Catdestroyer versus Tars. Talking of craziness, Tars is one of those players who you can almost guarantee is not going to bring standard Priest, standard Druid, standard Warlock. He has a standard Rogue. He has the most wins of anybody at DreamHacks in 50 match wins at all DreamHack Grand Prix only. He's played other DreamHacks as well that aren't even those. So we have the decks on the screen. Fairly standard looking lineup from Catdestroyer and a standard looking lineup from Tars, but I'm suspicious.
Well, there's no Priest on Tars' side, so standard is out of the question, as you alluded to. Tars loves to brew up his own decks. He likes to be very creative, and you've seen it pay off for him. At times, I think Tars' play could get a little bit tighter, but some of that could stem from the unfamiliarity with decks. When you're constantly making new deck builds, how much practice can you really get under your belt in that short amount of time?
Right, and he does all this craziness at like a 60% win rate against the best players in Hearthstone. You know, whilst just casually brewing up things that I would call nonsense if I lost to them at rank 12. Like, what's this rubbish?
I would call them nonsense at any stage.
Okay, fair enough. just say it how it is.
It's just nonsense. But anyway, you get the job done.
And he loves it. I mean, you can see whenever he's playing, every single player competitively can have their moments where they're not enjoying playing, they're losing. That's the main reason. Tars enjoys losing sometimes. As long as he's making his opponents squirm, he seems to be happy, winning or losing.
To me, it's just the fashion of it. I don't like losing when, you know, I just can't do anything. I get a bad draw and nothing happens. But if it's some spectacular fashion and the game goes the distance and it's haymakers back and forth, sure, I want to win, but you know, you got to take your losses with the wins. This is Hearthstone. You're going to lose some games.
Yeah, and Tars just makes those games happen. He makes it happen on both sides. Win or lose, he makes it entertaining, and hopefully he doesn't let us down now and just bring like Jade Druid and Secret Mage.
I would be very surprised if Tars had anything close to standard.
Here we go.
Right away, getting our surprise. Again, no... Wait, it says he didn't have Priest in the lineup. What's going on?
It didn't, but he has, and it's big Priest, so don't worry about it. It's not real Priest, it's big Priest. Although we saw Muzzy bring that earlier, we saw Tars bring this to the last event.
So Druid, Mage, and Priest. We'll just go with that.
We'll work out what is missing in a moment. Probably the Warlock, I should think.
Either Warlock or Rogue has been banned. There's the Barnes in the opening hand as well. Tars is on coin with Barnes and Eternal Servitude. Catdestroyer, it's got a Yogg in hand.
There's a card that makes fun happen. If you want something crazy to happen in Hearthstone, this is where you need to be for the next hour or so, I think.
Lorinda, this is 2017. What is that Yogg doing there?
I don't even know. I just don't know. I think what happens is you play so many spells that people are tempted to Yogg. It still does a lot of stuff as long as there are minions on the opposing board. And quite often with Druid going into turn 10, you don't always have the chance to ultimate Infestation because your opponent has 4 minions. Maybe the Yogg's there to take care of that. Yeah,
that's really the purpose of Yogg, is they come from behind emergency button. Druid, of course, plays a lot of spells, but this card took a big hit when the change happened of if Yogg is silenced or removed from play in any way, that its effect stops. It ends right there. And Barnes into Lich King gets Frostmourne, probably one of the weaker options off of Lich King in this spot, but he's got an Eternal Servitude to back this up. I think Catdestroyer is in a heap of trouble.
Just quickly talk about Catdestroyer while we watch him try and get out of this mess, which I don't think he's going to. He's I don't know which DreamHack it was. I don't have that on hand, but he's played one previous DreamHack Grand Prix and made the top 8 with a 7-2 Swiss record and won the top 16. So this guy can play Hearthstone. You don't get top 8 at DreamHacks by accident anymore. It's just not a thing that occurs.
Unless you're me.
Unless you're you.
But I don't have one, so. Not unless you're me.
I've been in a lot of top 8s at DreamHacks this year, but I've watched them all.
Eye is a big draw for Catdestroyer. This maybe gives him some pressure to really start getting through this, but Tars still has a ton of backup, and with Silence drawn, he can take care of the Jade ramp straight away.
Yeah, and he's His only issue is going to be how to manage his hand size. That's starting to become a little bit of a problem for him.
Spend your cards, that's how.
He's going to have to keep spending his cards, though, because this Lich King's going to keep filling them up.
You know, that doesn't sound like that bad a thing when you put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the Druid's trying to do.
Ooh. So Death Grip first. Okay, and there's the clarification for you. Catdestroyer is the one without Priest. He's actually got Warlock in the lineup. So there you can see the change on screen for that correction. Druid, Mage, Warlock is his lineup.
Another Warlock for players, though. I always find it interesting. I know that a lot of players sort of group together, and obviously you play test as a top player with other top players. That's your only good chance. Ladder's not always good enough. But it's amazing how many groups come to the same conclusions that Warlocks suddenly, they feel is good against what they're expecting.
Yeah, a lot of that came down to the balance patch, too. You know, Fiery War X going to 3 mana, Spreading Plague moving up by a mana, Innervate, for most people being completely taken out of Druid.
Yeah.
It really removes a lot of power spike potential.
Yeah, taking out Pirates for the large part, although Amnesiac thinks otherwise, also getting rid of it. So
I do as well. I think it's still a strong deck. It's just not as... doesn't have some of those insane draws that you had before with Coin, Fiery War Axe, and Bloodsilver. That was probably the best start that the deck had in general.
And that makes it hard to evaluate, right? Because you're used to a deck being super powerful, and now it's not super powerful anymore. You've got to try and look at it with fresh eyes. All you can see is, where's my War Axe?
Yeah.
It takes a while to sink in, don't matter.
Yeah, the big benefit of that deck is fighting against small aggression. So you think about how well it matches up against Shaman and things like that. Here, though, for Catdestroyer, I like his trade-in on the minions. Try to set this Lich King up to be under pressure the whole game. But boy, when 16 is crashing in after 2 turns, he's got to be feeling heat.
Yeah, I mean, you're the Druid. You're the one who's supposed to be cheating early on with your ramp, and your opponent just plays an 8-drop on turn 4. That's totally unfair.
Yeah.
It's totally unfair.
Way to go, Big Priest.
Everyone's happy about that, yeah.
God, I love Big Priest.
So the only problem that, well, not the only, but the main problem that getting out early has caused, of course, is Tars now needs to protect that, or you'll have nothing to do for a couple of turns while he waits for it all to come back around. Now, it should be enough to win the game anyway.
Exactly. How much more does he really need to do in that instance? Here, not even going to take care of the Jade Spear, just heal up and say go. That effectively negates that attack. So I like this play from Tars as well. Catdestroyer still in the back foot. Death and Decay picked up. Just more gas, but this is the big swing. Can Catdestroyer win from here?
He definitely can, I think. I'm not sure if he's going to, but you know, having a full grip, having a full hand of cards as Druid with 10 mana is a very dangerous animal.
And I mentioned that Frostmourne, not the greatest pickup off Lich King, but here, this is exactly what Tars wants.
Right.
And again, he's had 3 Lich King draws to do this. It's a 7-to-1 to draw any particular Lich King, or I'm sorry, or Death Knight card from, say, Lich King or Arthas.
Actual Death Knight cards.
Yeah.
Not the ones we call Death Knight cards.
Yeah, not the actual Death Knights themselves.
Exactly.
The Death Knight.
Yeah, and you're eventually going to get it sooner rather than later. If you keep drawing those 1 in 8 shots, you are going to get there.
Jade Golem is finally being out of range of Death and Decay, though. That is an important thing here.
Yeah, and Catdestroyer recognizing this, he's just going to start spamming the green men earlier, so as soon as possible here, not messing around.
Still a great clear from Tars, though. So the option now is, does Tars want a 3/6 Jade Behemoth to recur from this Frostmourne, or does he want the 6/6 Jade Golem to recur? He can smite and use Dragonfire Potion and then attack with the Frostmourne. Which would he rather have?
Tight. It's really tight.
I say bigger stuff is better.
Bigger stuff is better. You don't need the taunts, I guess.
Take some more damage, though, if he wants to do it that way.
Yeah. Does he care? I mean,
Jades are getting awfully
don't forget,
big.
he doesn't know about this Yogg. So taking damage is slightly more bad for him than you'd normally expect, because Yogg can deliver a little bit. But this is the thing with Ultimate Infestation as well. All Tars has done all game is smack Catdestroyer in the face, and suddenly he's still only done 10 damage.
You know, this is interesting as well, having the Pint-Sized Potion Shadow Word Horror, plus the swing from the Frostmourne.
Okay.
You'd rather have the 3/6. Oh, maybe not. Yeah. Whoop.
Got to pick one of them.
Next turn, the resummon is upon us. I am curious, though, because if he had used the Pint-Sized Potion this spot, he could have taken out the 3/6. saved a bit of his life total, and then had the Death and Decay or the Dragonfire Potion plus the other Frostmourne hit to take the last thing. This is a really unique turn from Tars, where I think he had a lot of directions he could have gone.
The 3/6 protecting his board seems to be what he's going for.
Yeah, but it also
going to have a big board.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's...
And this was really my thought, is if Catdestroyer follows up with more Jade stuff, not having that Dragonfire Potion suddenly makes this look a little bit more shaky.
It does. Star's going to have to work out what he wants. Oh, this deck is so messy to play. Only a Tars could love this.
Horror. Death and Decay. Smack the Jade. The big priest has become the Jade Druid.
Just in time.
Look at me.
What
I'm the Jade Druid now.
For those who can't see, I'm looking at Admiral, and he looks just like a Jade Druid at this point. Tars is never scared to take the creative line if he thinks it's right. I know that's an obvious statement, but a lot of players will see a creative line and then bail on it anyway, just because it might not be right in their instincts. If Tars sees it and likes it, he will take a creative-looking line.
He's cooking up something. My turn would have been over with in about 3.5 seconds.
Right.
So.
And Tars isn't a particularly slow player. He ropes quite often because he does so many weird plays, but he's thinking about a lot of stuff here.
I don't know about this one, Lorinda.
No.
He could have cleared off the opposing board, taken 4 damage, and resummoned Jade Golems. Instead, a 7/7 Jade Golem lives and he heals himself for 2? I think that's just strictly weaker. Because what does Pint-Size Horror do from this point? The Jades are out of control now.
Let's go the other way with this. How does he stop? How does Catdestroyer stop Tars from repeatedly hitting him? Next turn, the Obsidian comes down for Tars. And this 3/5 and the 5/5 is just going to keep hitting in the face while the taunts are getting in the way.
Well, Yogg is pretty much the answer to that.
Okay, so from Tars's point of view, in the real world, how do you expect that to happen? We know that in the real world, Yogg's there, but in Tars's world, it probably is not.
Yeah, but just again, imagine the board position. He could have had 5/5, 3/6, 7/7.
Sure.
Clear skies.
Yeah, okay.
Instead, it's 7/4,
Yeah, I think you're right.
7/4 versus 3/6.
And that gets it over within 2 turns.
Oof.
The Obsidian, the big deal here, of course, because it's going to block things up. But you're right, the 7/7 is just a better card. Are we going to see the first Yogg in competitive play since time began the second time?
I mean, there's still a lot for Catdestroyer as well. You know, I feel like I'm giving Tars a bit of flack here, but Catdestroyer's got a ton of stuff to think about in his own right.
I mean, this is a hard game of Hearthstone. Let's not make no bones about this one. There's a lot going on here. And when you can't see the priest's hand, you have to pick 1 or 2 cards you're scared of and play around them. You can't play around the entire hand. It's impossible.
Angel being gone means that Jade Idol's going to have to shuffle at some point. Unless he just feels like he can lethal with the big Jade Idol. I mean, I have no problem with that, and that's a play that I tend to make fairly often, is when I get ahead. Sometimes I look at it and go, you know what? I'm not going to need to shuffle this. He has no way to handle this big Jade.
Something I love about Jade Druid to watch at the moment is that decision is so difficult a lot of the time. You've got to really think, does this game end before I reach the last card in my deck?
Yeah.
And if the answer is yes, you play it, and if the answer is no, you shuffle it, and that's an easy question. But by shuffling it, you make that come true in the first place.
Yeah, to me, I love the contrast of, does drawing 10 cards help me or hurt me make that decision?
Sure. And I think when Jade was designed, I think this is what they had in mind, is that tough decision.
Well, this is a pretty overall weak turn from Tars. He gets no development. He simply counter-develops board. And now Catdestroyer has some very strong options. It looks like he's got things stabilized.
How do you feel Catdestroyer does against Zoo? He's got Primordial Drake, he's got Yogg, he's got Doomsayer. He's got a lot of stuff that's going to hurt these Zoo decks we're seeing.
I feel like, to me, that Jade Druid is still slightly favored in that matchup. It's still got a lot of defensive potential. Now, where it's struggling is if there's an explosive start on the other side.
Right, but he's got ways to deal with a lot of that with his, Doomsayer's normal, Primordial Drake's kind of in between.
Takes time.
And Yogg is just a bailout for you. I think that maybe he will find himself in a better position than a lot of these Jades against Zoo.
You ask me personally, I wouldn't bail out Yogg. I would just let him settle into the dust. I don't think Yogg is too big to fail.
Sure. You just don't want to see that card ever again. You cast a lot of Yogg.
And this is what Tars is setting up for, this Yashiraj. Oh, mama.
Wow.
And I think it's getting close to bailout time.
I think it's amusing. These guys have just smacked each other with everything they've got repeatedly for like 12 or 13 turns. One's on 17, the other's on 27.
I love that about Big Priest. It's just haymakers the entire game.
Can you get anything going here with a silence and a Doomsayer? You just can't hide this Doomsayer behind the spreading play well enough.
The other thing too is that Catdestroyer could be thinking about something like that. Maybe he wants to try to hide behind Spreading Plague, wait till Yash pulls out more stuff, give Yogg better chances to take out more. His win condition at this point looks more to me like he wants to exhaust Tarz's resources.
Yes. And there aren't many. You know, when they're coming at you, it feels like they're never ending, but you can run the priest out of these minions, as you say.
That's easier said than done.
But that's what he's going for. That's why this Jade is firmly staying in his hand.
And I like leaving the Primordial Drake up here, not pushing the damage into Yashiraj, and then going for the Spreading Plague afterwards. This keeps him a bit stronger versus Shadowward Harbor, but Tarz has pint-sized Shadowward Harbor, and that means 14 is crashing in.
And how many silences he likely to play in this deck? We've seen one early on. If he's playing two, he's just picked up a Shadow Vision, which could silence this Doomsayer and just end it.
Well, the Shadowward Harbor would take that out as well. The pint
Sorry,
size.
yeah.
And Shadowward Harbor clears Catdestroyer's board. Catdestroyer is not playing against cats right now. He's playing against Yashiraj's and Ysera's.
Yeah, and you could
much harder to destroy the cats.
Destroy cats right now.
Tarz is still cooking up something though.
Yeah, what's he doing now? I guess
no
the turn's all about what do I do? What can I do that's even more ridiculous than killing this board and hitting you in the face?
Do you know what I would do for 14 damage, Lorinda?
I don't know what you do. I suspect it's pretty dark.
I'd play Big Priest.
Why didn't I see that coming? Somebody help. Okay. So, it's one to you, sir.
There we go. Team deal damage. Boom.
Here he comes.
Boom.
Mr. Y.
And this is it. Catdestroyer on 3 health too is in danger. And not only that, but now if Yogg kills the Obsidian Destroyer first, if he hadn't summoned a minion from that Yogg-Saron, that's it. It'll end.
Just 3 pyros to face.
At least I think it'll end.
Yeah, it will.
I don't know when that death rattle takes effect.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, okay.
Well, just buckle in. Let it happen. Not like this!
Wow, it was just getting the job started and we didn't get to see the end of the job, and that's going to be it. It's going to be 1-0 to Tarz. And I think we wanted a more exciting Yogg than that, but sort of did some things, looked like it might turn it around, but luckily Yogg was nerfed back in the day and it doesn't get to finish the job.
That would have been gross. That's why they changed it. It was just way too strong.
It's still strong. I mean, it's still a good Hearthstone card. We just don't see it as much anymore.
Now, mind you, that was the opener that Tarz dreams of with Big Priest. Barnes, obviously a super crucial card when it comes to setting up the rest of this deck. He did have Eternal Servitude as well. Another big tool where that 1-2 punch is often too much for a lot of decks to handle. But there was still some shaky spots in there. I think Tarz could have given himself better positions. And I think Catdestroyer was just under heat so early that he felt like his back was against the wall. Maybe an earlier Yogg would have maybe been the right call in some spots. Doesn't have to outright end the game.
Right.
Just has to put you far enough ahead.
There were a couple of spots where Yogg would have been nice, I feel. In fact, if you wait until it's your bailout, you've almost lost these days with Yogg. Whereas, like you say, if you played it maybe 2 or 3 turns earlier, clear a board, draw a couple of cards, that can just get the job done.
Well, let's take a look at the ugly side of Big Priest for a moment here. Yeah. Sarah drawn, Servitude, no value, pint size, no synergy, Dragonfire. Well, let's see if we can get there in time.
Yeah, meanwhile, looking at what Catdestroyer is going to be doing, these cards are coming at you, and they're coming at you fast.
Fledgling, I think, is a super key tool in this matchup.
How would you go about making your fledgling if you could build it the way you wanted?
Wind Fury damage.
Just straight up hit you in the face, no sort of Divine Shield shenanigans, no messing around, just get that down. Obviously the Wind Fury for everybody.
Silence though, that could be just enough for Tars to get back into this, but a lot of damage going to pour in the meantime.
Yeah, this is the way that Warlock copes. We said this earlier by playing Keleseth. It makes the turn 2 just 2-1 drops so often.
The turn of truth approaches. Can Tars handle this much damage?
I mean, he can. The damage is coming in fairly fast, but it's not overwhelmingly fast. Silencing a minion that doesn't yet have an ability is something that you have to do, and it's terrifying that you have
Sometimes
to do that.
the threat of power is more powerful than the power itself.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. You see that with Counterspell versus Coin sometimes.
Cobalt is going to come down right into the Dragonfire turn as well. Now, if you're Catdestroyer here, do you ever contemplate just Mortal Coiling your own Blood Imp here? Blood Imp doesn't really service a big portion of this
Interesting.
matchup.
I feel that you're happy with this. I think that maybe if your Blood Imp will get something out of range later. It also serves as a card in your hand.
Threat of power.
If you want to Doomguard as well. Maybe protect something. Maybe you want to Doomguard now and take your chance. That gives Tars two totally different problems to deal with.
Catdestroyer has the option for Doomguard as well. I mean, Doomguard.
That's what I'm saying. He's keeping the cards in his hand so he can Doomguard, and it's like, do you want to potion my small guys? Let this live. Do you want to play the death and let the small guys live?
I am scale baning close to 1,000,000,000% of the time here. However, I mean, the Blood Fury potion is a lot of damage. It gives him a life tap, and then he can follow up with the Blood Imp plus the Scale Bane. So there is use for that Blood Imp after all.
Yeah.
That stealth body buff. Wow, that's a neat little trick there.
Actually,
Look at
it's
that.
like just buffing the stealths. Big stealth minions. We don't want those back. Don't encourage them.
This keeps the Malchezaar's Imp outside of Dragonfire range as well.
I like this the best.
Wow. That was a sick draw indeed. I would have instantly cobalted and regret my life.
Yeah, I think whenever you can present Priest with one problem bigger than 5 health and a bunch smaller, you're in a good shape.
Yeah, that's the key to beating it, is having pressure remain through what they perceive as board clears.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to have different challenges. If you put a whole board of the same stuff down against Priest, you end up losing. Because when Priest has the no barns draw, it plays the first 5 or 6 turns just like Kazaka's Priest.
Yeah.
It's only later on, or either get the barns or later on, that it starts to diverge. Of course, it has far worse tools than Highlander Priest to deal with your board because it has to actually play its stuff.
Yeah, he's also down to 10, so...
Yeah, it needs to do something.
I wonder.
I think it's Dragonfire all day, but there is a lot of follow-up for Catdestroyer.
Plenty of choices here. Trying to find a lethal.
Doomguard draws fresh 2. That's 2 draws for Soulfire.
Yeah.
For Veteran, for the +1 attack buff.
That's plenty of outs. I go for that all day.
Yep. Giddy up.
There it is.
That'll do it. 1 up. Catdestroyer answers back. And that's how big Priest works sometimes. It's a feast or famine style of strategy.
Yeah, very much so. I think it's probably the biggest one of those at the moment. Obviously, anything with Keleseth, people say is like that, but I feel that Keleseth's influence on games is slightly overrated.
I definitely agree with that. I think Keleseth's biggest problems that I've been presented with is the fact that it's a 2/2 that sometimes I can't kill immediately.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the real part that's overstated is how good the Shadow Step is into Keleseth. You use a lot of cards if you go Keleseth, Shadow Step, Coin, mess around.
Yeah, you're in for the long haul at that point. Yeah. That's why that deck is built with the Scalebanes and the Bone Mares and the Vile Spines. It's not just a pure all-in aggro deck. It relies on the strength of its draw to fight it every single step of the way.
Moment of truth for Tars here. Can he actually deal with Zoo?
Well, he does have Mage in the lineup.
Okay.
Mage, I think, is quite strong versus Warlock. Quest Mage, however...
What sort of Quest Mage are you expecting here from Tars? I've got my own.
Okay, well, that's the right call.
My own hunch as to what he's playing, and the fact he's thrown that away, I'm going to see some Giants.
Yeah. So I would assume that Giants is more up Tars' alley.
He played it at one of the previous DreamHacks earlier in the year.
Yeah, even
won a
without
game
seeing that.
exactly like this.
But I mean, to me, that's the selling point, is that he played it earlier in the year to DreamHack. The Giants do give you a little bit more oomph versus aggressive decks. Sometimes just mult Giants and freeze the board is enough to get the job done. But his major turns he's looking for are, again, freeze Doomsayers, lots of card draw, and then chaining together AoE spells to lock down Catdestroyer's damage. If Catdestroyer gets off to a big unchecked lead, Tars almost never wins that game. And that's why so much of this deck I anticipate being dedicated to simply answering those small board states. Flame Strike.
That's so convenient for later.
Spells are fun.
Something else I've seen Tars do more than once now, not much more than once, but 2 or 3 times, is just use that Time Walk to buy a turn. Not use it as a win condition. Because you're playing the Giants, buying yourself a turn, maybe do 8 damage to face or whatever, take down a couple of minions with the Time Walk, and then just save for later. He's really good at managing the deck so that he uses every one of the 30 cards.
Yeah. Not
necessarily in the way that you think they were designed to be played.
And this is a really interesting turn here for Tars, where he has the option to play Doomsayer, but he's looking at Soulfire or the second potion that buffs up demons would be an easy clear for Catdestroyer. And now not electing to play the Doomsayer opens him up to a bit of a push. Catdestroyer's hand, I think, is quite weak at the moment. So this could be somewhat of a struggle, but Tars always has the fallback of the Frost Nova Doomsayer at that point. Spellbreaker then is pretty much the only option.
Yeah, and if you can get the Frost Nova Doomsayer to go off in its greedy, fullest form, and he's still got the Flame Strike hanging around, or the other way around, whichever way he chooses to do it, suddenly he'll find himself in a position where he's got so much value from this Cabalist Tome coming up as well. He'll have a bit of time to get those spells cast. And outvaluing Zoo is not an easy proposition. You have to be a bit greedy, and that's what he's going to try and do.
The other thing, too, is that Doomguard is such a fantastic follow-up to the Frost Nova Doomsayer, especially if you happen to have Malkazar Zemp, because you get the card draw bonus, dig deeper into your deck, and at the same time, you are protected from a lot of that removal.
Tars just choosing to get some value out of that flame while he can and making Catdestroyer put more stuff on the board.
He can't just leave that card. We've seen it before. Here's the...
We've seen it before.
Malkazar Zemp.
Do-it-yourself Doomguard. It's taking a while, but he's got there.
Oh, I don't like this from Tars. It is Frost Nova Doomsayer, not Doomsayer Frost Nova. We call it
making
Frost
it
Nova
difficult
Doomsayer.
for casters on purpose
Yeah,
at that point.
you play it. You play the Frost Nova first.
Right, cross him off the list.
Yeah,
DreamHack.
I'm putting an X through his name as well.
Yeah, I'm going to dock him 3 wins.
So here we go. Tars now, I think, very likely to either Cabalist Tome or the Ghastly Mage. And if Doomguard is at the top of his head, Ghastly Mage looks a lot better than the Tome does.
He may just be tempted to just not do much. He's thinking of cycling this coil and just waiting.
Yeah, the thing here for Catdestroyer is, what doesn't he want to draw? So that the Doomguard won't discard it. That's the reason he doesn't Mortal Coil. It's not so much about digging deeper into his deck. He's going to do that next turn with the Doomguard.
Yeah.
But if he draws a second Doomguard, or if he draws the Blooded Gul'dan, suddenly those cards
Bone
get risked.
Mare or something like that, which he just doesn't want to chuck away. So yeah, that's an interesting spot.
Pretty weak Tome for Tars as well. What on earth?
I don't know. I just pointed at you as if you were going to know.
Crazed Alchemist guy, right?
Yeah, it is.
So he's valuing the 4/4 body over the efficiency in terms of cost of the Crazed Alchemist.
You are not the boss of me.
Who dares summon me?
Wow. I'm surprised by that.
Well, he wanted to cycle into his Bone Mare and he got there. That's all I can go with.
And Tars is lacking significant secrets in this spot as well.
Yeah,
He'd love, I think, to find an Ice Block and then ways to stabilize. Not playing that Ghastly Conjurer, there's a risk and a reward to it. The benefit, of course, is when you hit a good Cabalist Tome, you can sail away with the game. But if he had protected himself with that Ghastly Conjurer, he'd be at a much healthier life total right now.
And he's not far away if he'd done all these things. If he can survive 1 or 2 turns is massive here, because if he can survive just 1 or 2 turns, these Giants are getting cheap. 2 8/8s in a turn will win him this game of Hearthstone if he can get to that point. And if he'd played that Conjurer, maybe he could have just been a bit greedier. Maybe you get these Giants down to 6 and just drop 1, some defense.
This just looks like a really good arena hand.
That's another recent caster meme, but I do agree, a lot of the current decks are looking like arena decks, which is more than we said for some of the arena decks.
So now, how important was this Flame Strike here for Tars? Sitting at 12, he can't kill everything.
Can he at least make sure he's alive and then double giant next turn with some sort of defense at the same time? That sounds like a big ask. You can get those giants down to pretty cheap levels over the next couple of turns, but he's so close to dead. And Catdestroyer is managing his hand pretty well. He's got a big reload if it's needed.
Yeah. And the tech card as well. It can swap around one of the mirror images, unsuspecting your opponent, and push those last points of damage.
Or Doomsayer earlier.
Yeah, clearly it's meant for Doomsayer.
Sure, just a reminder. Yeah, for now he can do several things. Catdestroyer's got plenty of damage coming in.
Yeah, this looks fairly straightforward to me. I don't believe he has any draws for lethal. Scalebane looks all right. It's a big guy.
Scalebane looks all right. Blood Imp looks all right because if you buff the Scalebane, it gets you out of Flame Strike ping range. Then you've got to think, do you really care about this extra 1 damage from this Doom Guard?
Also blocks up some of the Cone of Cold here.
Speak your piece.
Does. Sure, yeah, okay. I like it.
Ooh. The turn of truth.
Oh, can he work anything with this? There's 15
No.
on board, so face is not the place.
Can't heal himself defensively. There's too much damage that he's staring down. 5 mana to get Conjurer plus the Secrets online. It'll leave him with 4 mana left, so then he can't play Secret plus the Medivh's Valet. He plays Secret, none of them are defensive, plus the Medivh's Valet.
Looking like it might be checkmate. That'll be a 2-1 lead. Another 2 games with Zoo. We've seen 5 games in this cast, Admirable, and Zoo has won them all.
Yeah, pay attention, everybody. If you're looking
Big Priest won 1, sorry.
If you're looking for a way to use your Nemzi Warlock that you may or may not have acquired thus far,
I'm happy.
Zoo is looking all right.
It's looking
I'm sorry,
good.
more curvy Warlock. Aggressive curvy Warlock.
Aggressive curvy Warlock.
That's exactly how I like my women. Aggressive and curvy.
I'm not saying anything. I'm not, yeah?
Take it, Miranda.
I've got to go home to my lovely lady. I'm saying nothing. And that's the bottom right threat. Tars memeing goes, do it!
Well, he's pretty much dead on board. Catdestroyer is going to look at this and say, if that's Ice Block, if that's Ice Barrier, what's the most effective way to fight this? So still a little bit of thinking to do, but almost all of, I believe all of his conclusions that would pop Ice Block or Ice Barrier this turn will just outright win him the game. It's not a defensive secret.
Possibilities.
And showing this card, he's trying to figure out a way to not show that.
This is such a Tars play, by the way. Just like, I know you're going to work it out.
Try,
I'm just going to make you work it out, right? You might do something completely ridiculous because of it. And even if you don't, I'm going to make you squirm. Just go back to what I said at the start. He loves to watch you worry about it.
Catdestroyer's fearing Ice Barrier right now. There you go. So now he's thinking Ice Block, and now he's thinking, sweet.
And now he's thinking, why? Oh, yeah, it's Tars. I remember now. Why not even worry about it? No, good play for him. Did the ordering correctly. Made sure he got it done. Tars forced him to do it correctly, which is also, of course, the correct thing to do. And now Tars, again, we keep saying this in Last Hero, but he chose to play that Quest Mage there. That's the deck he thought he had the better chance with, most likely.
Which, what does that say about his Druid?
Yeah.
In this matchup.
Does not fancy this at all. Could well be a big Druid at that situation because they're a little bit slow. You're getting hit for a lot.
I think Big Druid is right up Tars' alley.
I do as well. It sounds like a very Tars deck.
What's your favorite iteration of the Big Druids? Do you like the Dragons one?
I don't like any big Druids. I'm not an easy sort of person. I'm a very hard-going sort of person.
Oh, Big Druid's very difficult to play.
Oh, sure it is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You play all your ramp, and then you play your big guys. To me, the hardest part about Big Druid is quite literally building the deck. At different times, they mean different things. But it looks like Jade Druid with Glacial Shard? Is this an Elemental Jade Druid?
This could be, and this isn't actually a bad idea. I tried Elemental Jade Druid when Elementals first changed because of Jade Spirit became an Elemental. And the big thing that helps you is that Blaze Caller in Druid is absurd. Druid's not very good at the one-on-one removal. Blaze Caller is stupid when it activates. Now, there's a lot of things that's wrong with it. It doesn't curve like you normally want, etc., etc. I'm not claiming it's the best deck ever or anything like that.
What is Catdestroyer thinking when he sees Glacial Shard you go?
I'm going to make a load of things and hit you in the face. That's all he can think.
He's going, whew, really glad I drew this Mortal Coil.
He's definitely thinking that.
These shards are looking quite good right now, though.
I mean, they make sense.
Checks the Flame Imp, leads him right into Jade Blossom.
It does make a lot of sense.
Wrath might change that.
And also, it's his last elemental now.
Yeah, I like the Wrath here instead. Good call from Tars.
Looking, though, like he's going to be fine to get to this Jade Behemoth in plenty of time without really suffering.
Ooh.
Maybe not so much now.
Heavy hand from Catdestroyer is the thing I'm looking at. Because the Glacial Shard helps fight against the Vicious Fledgling. It's stopping the attack return so that you could get that Jade Behemoth online.
You can also get your Fandral down just almost unchallenged against this Flappy Bird now because it'll be defended with a Glacial Shard.
Ooh. You can tell Catdestroyer is...
Is this Fandral going to be around on turn 7? There's a good chance it is.
Well, right now, Catdestroyer cannot check the Fandral.
And then he won't be able to check much of the Behemoth. And if Fandrel's sitting there with Malfurion on board, it doesn't happen often. Those games don't last long when you're a board control match.
The one thing he can do is he can play the Crystal Weaver, tack into the Fandral, hope that you land Despicable Dreadlord next turn. However, I think that is much weaker than trying to isolate the Fandral and pressure with both these fledglings. Now, the Jade Behemoth is a shutdown to that play.
It is.
But I like the risk from Catdestroyer.
Yeah, and there's plenty, and there's nothing he can do, but it made a lot of sense. Oh, this helps a little.
Look at the cards he's got to discard, though.
No, but are you playing those cards in any time soon anyway? You're never playing 2 of them in one turn, so they're going to clutter you up your hand for some time to come. I think you just discard them and say they were going to be too slow. Goodbye, sweet cards. You protect a Flappy Bird to some extent this way.
He's got to find a way to just outright win.
So, going through the cards one by one, the Dreadlord's obviously good. Is this Kobold actually this good if all your board is dead?
I think this is probably the play he had to make if he wants to win this game. Catdestroyer doesn't have a defensive option. Fangel's sticking around for a turn. You're staring at a dire situation where Malfurion is just such a huge hit. I think he's got to go for something big in this spot and just hope it worked out. Stealth to protect. And now this Malfurion is about lights out.
Yeah, Fandral on the board, I've seen this very few times. I've never seen it overturned when Fandral sticks and Malfurion.
My goodness. That is dirty.
There's so many things disgusting about it. Like, first of all, the obvious thing, you get all these minions. But even worse, you protect the Fandral, which means your hero power becomes the Warlock hero power, except 3 turns earlier. There's so much disgrace about it.
Tars is going to push!
Yeah. Why not? What's he scared of? He's got 2/1/2 poison spiders. They can do the dirty work.
I don't see a way out of this.
It doesn't look good for Catdestroyer fans in this particular game.
That is the power of minions with these passive effects on them, is they present such a big problem for your opponent that when they go unchecked, they end games.
Yeah.
And that's really what has been such, I think, the challenge of this metagame is finding the right mix of cards that consistently present that problem to your opponent.
Right.
Druid really has the big one in Fandral.
Yeah, and Tars played that beautifully. He protected the Fandral all the way up to Malfurion.
And how good were the Glacial Shards?
They won the game.
It occupied a mana so that Catdestroyer couldn't double flame it. It froze a Vicious Fledgling so that he had time to get the Fandral down.
The Fandral that's still on the board on turn 8. And anybody who's played Hearthstone knows that if Fandral on the board on turn 8 from turn 4, you've lost.
That doesn't mean go home and put Glacial Shards in your Jade Druid
decks.
decks.
Do it. Everybody do it.
And then quickly queue and let me know so I can queue as well.
The other interesting thing is we haven't seen any other elementals yet. We're thinking maybe it's an all-in elemental deck. Maybe he's just gone a little bit of a tempo-y Jade Druid.
It is somewhat curious to me that he has Dirty Rat in addition to what we've seen thus far, but nothing stands out to me thus far as missing.
We've seen players in the past And I mean, it's another deck archetype as well, but that's not what I mean. We've seen players put Raven into Jade Druid as a turn 1 play.
Oh, with the Mark of the Lotuses and stuff.
But not even, no, that's not what I mean. I literally mean like just on its own. As we've seen Show play that in the past. Just here's a Raven, it's a 2/2 on turn 1. You're not getting through. It's not necessarily the Mark build. That's a totally different
gotcha.
archetype. But maybe this is his turn 1 play. This is his thing that just helps him stick some stuff around, slows his opponent down.
This is his thing, all right.
It's definitely his thing. But maybe it's not just an elemental Blazecaller thing like I was thinking. Maybe it's just literally his 1-drop that he weaves in there and gets a board out of it. It's a very good defensive card in a class that hasn't got very good defensive cards.
Yeah, well, Cobalt Scalebane's not a good defensive card there. We're going to game 5.
You know what that means? We're going to see more of this deck. All of Tarz's future opponents should be watching this game right now.
Catdestroyer is on Mage. So if he did, in fact, choose to bring Quest Mage to this event, this could be a problem for Tarz. But we did see that Dirty Rat.
We did.
Right before that game ended. And that can pick that deck apart. If you hit an Antonidas, if you pull one of the Sorcerer's Apprentices, right as Catdestroyer is trying to set up that big turn, that can be the difference. But outside of that, if that's a Quest Mage, Catdestroyer for the most part runs away with it.
Catdestroyer is looking anywhere but at Tarz there. You just don't want to look at Tarz in these situations. You're just too happy about the fact this is exciting.
And it's Tempo Mage instead. And this deck has performed quite well against Druid also. The secrets provide a lot of pressure. Obviously, Mana Worm is an extremely key card.
And Counterspell against this hand as well is going to be a big... It's always a big deal, but a particularly big deal. And this is a hand that can get it done here, but mustn't write off Tarz's hand either. It's not exactly the worst hand.
Ooh. Looking like Mana Worm into Sorcerer's Apprentice Coin Primordial Glyph Opener for Catdestroyer. Does that Wrath change anything?
It's the next card that Tarz draws that's going to change things. He's going to have 5 mana available very early in the game, but as it stands, he's going to have nothing to do with that mana. So the next pickup is the next 2 pickups this turn, and the turn when he has that available are the ones that matter.
For me, the big one is that he gets a pretty safe Jade Blossom here.
Yes.
I think this is a very crucial card in this matchup. Just getting more minions down and ramping your mana, get you closer to those giant turns. Because if Catdestroyer can't find the right amount of pressure for Tarz, it's so easy for him to ramp into safe turns.
Just looking at this series of trades, by the way, Tarz was quite happy to stick that 1 point of damage into face there.
And I can't blame him for that. I think I would have done the same as well. Catdestroyer, if he's hero powering the 1/1 in this spot, it means he's not developing. And if he's not developing, that means Catdestroyer is very happy with this. Tarz knows that it could be Mirror Entity as well, so he's going to check. And he gets the bad news.
I'm just giggling because now the 1/1's going to live just because Tarz things.
I like the face attack.
Yeah. But just because he's playing the Glacier Shard, it would have actually protected if he'd wanted to there. And now he's bought himself yet another turn. These shards are buying him turns repeatedly. It's 1 turn close to this Malfurion. That could turn out to be just enough, although Catdestroyer is in such a strong position now.
Huh, very interesting turn from Catdestroyer there. Going right into Tarz's 6-mana turn, you're looking at Jade Behemoth. You're looking at, even at the weakest Jade Spirit. I think Mirror Entity with the 5/5 there, because it gets a discount, is a very reasonable turn.
Cat's looking at Coin Portal.
That's his alternative here.
That's what he's looking at. He set that up. He's looking at getting this portal going.
But is Coin Portal as strong into Jade Behemoth as the Mirror Entity plus 5/5?
I mean, it sets you up all right. I know what you're saying, but if you don't get that, then your turn's nuts. If you do get it, then it's okay. I think that's the point.
This is where he sees the payoff, is when he sees Jade Spirit in this instance.
Oh, and look at this hand. I mean, now he's given himself so many options. So the worst case was the Behemoth, where the portal wasn't very good, but it was okay. It was survivable.
That's the other thing this does, too, is it opens up options for him.
Right. Now he's got 4 cards in his hand that he can play quite comfortably. And if he picks up a secret from this glyph, that Crystal Runner is going to cost 2.
Oh, my. And what a secret.
And now he can just about spam his entire hand.
Counterspell protects.
And this has all come about from last turn when he set this up on the, we were talking about the Firelands, but all of this hand can be played pretty much here. That's a Yogg.
Yogg and the Mage. Mirror Entity, big deal. That 5/5 costs about free mana right now.
I much prefer the Yogg and the Mage to the Druid, by the way. The Mage sometimes runs out of cards and really has issues refilling.
Yeah, Catdestroyer going to trade up the Sorcerer's Apprentice. It's done its job. Uh-oh. You're staring down this board. You're thinking Malfurion?
Yeah.
That's all right. But the Aya.
I'm looking at Cat's hand and just wondering how Druid can survive long enough to get into this.
Tars is going to go for Dirty Rat, then the Aya? Wow, jeez, I don't know. And then do you take taunts or do you take poisons? The taunts die immediately. The poisons maybe threaten.
I guess you take the poisons. If he's got removal, he's got it. I guess that's the point here.
I think I would take poisons in this instance too. You're going to take a lot of damage when that happens, but look at your hand right now. If you're in Tars' spot, you have no follow-up to the taunts getting chewed through. However, if you take the poisons, Catdestroyer's deck is quite heavy.
Yeah.
As soon as you see the Sorcerer's Apprentice and the Mana Worm, you know that there's Firelance Portal. You know that Bone Mares are going to be in here. You know that there's going to be Kirin Mages. A lot of draws are simply not removal, and when they are removal, does Catdestroyer necessarily want to use them on 1/2 poisons?
Well, he's gone for the get chewed through option. All this does, and I say all, but this is what it does. It buys him a turn. We've seen with the Glacial Shards, he's about buying turns, and he's bought himself another one.
Wow.
We're not quite sure what he's buying them for yet.
He's bought himself a heap of trouble in this one.
He has indeed. We have to see what the payoff is. It looks like it's just going to be a normal Ultimate Infestation payoff.
And the 7/5 here, honestly, is better than the Yogg value would be. Catdestroyer's so far ahead that the 7/5 body just does so much damage.
Yeah, it's a turn 7/7/5. It's plenty, and this is the beginning of the end, if it's not actually the end.
12 plus 8, 25 damage I count for Catdestroyer this turn.
I'm just going to bail and say he can't do 38, so it's not lethal. 38 is a lot of numbers.
32 is where he has to hit that number at, plus he's got to get through the Dirty Rat.
Yeah, so that's 38 health in all. I'm going to say he can't do that. And by eyeballing it rather than risking counting it and having everyone laugh at
He
it.
can do most of it.
He can do a lot, yeah. It's a chunk of damage.
And now is the Frostbolt protect, or do you just ship it face and say, you figure it out? Stop the counterplay.
Quite like this, it's just...
I mean, does Tars have an out?
I'm going to go with yes, but I have no idea what it is. It's Tars. There'll be something in there that outs it.
Well, that stops those.
Yeah, the outs are gone. Tars is going to drop down here.
And he looks locked down to me.
We can see the Firelands, of course, as well, so... These Glacials are interesting, though.
That's 13 on board. Tars can't break those cuffs, and Catdestroyer is going to walk away from this match 3-2 over Tars.
And with his own interesting lineup, we've talked a lot about Tars, of course, who doesn't when he plays, but Cat also plays some interesting stuff there. Hello?
Hello. You know, I had a chance to I had lunch with Tars yesterday,
Okay.
And he was talking about how, you know, he has, what, 50 career DreamHack wins. He's been to every DreamHack that he can possibly go to. And he says he's always streamed in round 1 or round 2 because he brings weird decks, and you got to get him on stream before he loses. But you know what? He was absolutely right. He's back on stream. He had an incredible showing at DreamHack Montreal. Unfortunately, it just didn't pan out for him this time. But some really interesting tech choices from him, as always. The Glacial Shards and that Druid. Catdestroyer's lineup as well. A little bit unusual, but I like it. I like seeing a Yogg Saron now and then. It can certainly do things that no other card can do.
It's the big come from behind button. Again, when he's facing matchups that he anticipates to be similar to the ones that he's bringing, what that means is as the cards tend to go even towards the late game, you have that Yogg power. Can it bring back the games often enough to put you at an advantage when you face those mirror matchups?
And Tempo Mage, as opposed to the Druid, where we were a little bit, we didn't like it that much. In Tempo Mage, you don't sometimes just get behind on board. Sometimes you get behind in cards as well. And Yogg could do both of those things. Whereas in the Druid, you're always going to be okay on cards. It's just about the tempo you can generate with the Druid. The Mage can just empty its hand, and Yogg is another card draw mechanism.
Well, it's certainly working out for him well so far. That was our final match of round number 2, which means we are going to be getting round number 3 underway very shortly. Don't go anywhere. DreamHack Denver continues right after this.